Hello, my lovelies, and welcome to episode 10 of the Prosperous Yogini podcast. When I started this podcast, I did make a promise to myself that when needed, when necessary, I would have those hard to have conversations. I would cover topics that I find difficult to cover myself. And I feel like today's podcast is one of those episodes. I'm going to talk about your yoga business and the current economic crisis, the current recession. It is currently August 2022 and the UK, but also globally, we are facing rising fuel costs, rising food costs that aren't being matched by rising wages. So we have high inflation and we are heading into a recession. And it is perfectly natural, it's perfectly normal for your beautiful brain, if you are running a business, if you're running a wellness service business, which you are if you're a yoga teacher, to have those thoughts of, will people still be able to afford my yoga classes? Will people still be able to afford my yoga offers? And it is easy to fall into that panic, that negative chitter chatter of fear and scarcity. Fear that you're somehow going to stop making money from teaching yoga, scarcity that there isn't enough money out there, scarcity that there isn't enough people who will still buy into your yoga offers. And when we fall into this negative chitter chatter, which is going to happen, by the way, because we're human and our beautiful brain is just trying to keep us safe, when we fall into this negative chitter chatter, it can be really useful to challenge it with previous experiences and events and the data. What does the data say? Okay, and of course the data about the current economic crisis isn't overly cheery. But when I was thinking about what to say in today's podcast, I did have a moment of, well, I don't really know. I've not been through this before. What advice can I possibly give people? So I Googled it. And I typed in yoga and recession, and if you type in yoga business recession, you get quite a few articles dating back from 2009. I had to have a laugh to myself because I have been here before. There was an economic crisis, an economic recession at the end of 2008, 2009. That's when I started my yoga business. I didn't once think back in 2009, I was a newly qualified teacher. I was super excited, super amped to get teaching. There wasn't an inch of me that thought, better not start this class. People won't be able to afford it. I just started my class. I was really excited to share yoga, the gift of yoga, to teach people, to help people. And people came, and I've steadily grown my business since 2009, despite the fact I started in an economic recession that I was completely unaware of. I think the term ignorance is bliss is a good thing. Ignorance is bliss. Then I also was looking at current net worth of yoga globally and its projected growth. So there's, you Google this, there's lots of figures out there, but I came across an article from the Yoga Times that is saying that in 2022, that the yoga industry globally is worth £88 billion. And this is a figure that I've seen and heard a lot. And actually, I quote at the start of my podcast trailer, the yoga industry net worth globally to £88 billion. Ask yourself the question, why would I even think I'm in an industry worth this much? Why would I even think that I can't make money from teaching yoga, that it's going to be hard from making money from teaching yoga, that I shouldn't make money from teaching yoga? As a yoga teacher, you're in the heart of this industry. You have every right, every reason to make money from your gifts. Not just this article said that by 2025, that the yoga industry was set to grow to £215 billion. So I don't know if that's an accurate figure, but it's certainly suggesting that yoga is going to continue to grow despite an economic recession. So you are best placed to support people, to serve people through this stressful period, to make money. And if you have an excess and an abundance of money, you can use that money if you want to help people who are suffering because of the economic crisis. So when we think about external events, these are going to happen, by the way. We're human. We are always subjected to these external events that are beyond our control. What we have control of is our response to them. And today's podcast is really inspired by a Instagram post I saw. I'm really sorry, I've forgotten who it was, so I cannot thank them for the inspiration, but it went along the lines of, you can't pretend it's not happening. And I was like, yes, this is the message. You can't pretend it's not happening. You can't pretend that the cost of living crisis, the recession, isn't happening. And it made me think about COVID, and it made me think, well, imagine you pretended COVID wasn't happening. You put your head in the sand, you owned a yoga studio, and you put your head in the sand and you pretended COVID weren't happening and we weren't in lockdown. What would have been the impact of that on your yoga business? Well, it would have been disastrous. It would have been disastrous. So just like you couldn't have pretended COVID weren't happening and you had to adapt, you had to continue to serve and show up, you had to adapt, then my darling, my lovely, you may need to do it again, which I know, and I feel like this is one of these difficult conversation moments, in the light of COVID not being really that long ago, and a feeling that I feel like I've been on a treadmill of adaptation for a couple of years now, the thought that I may have to change or adapt again doesn't fill me with joy. But you know what? I had a word with myself, because what does yoga teach me? What do I know from my study of yoga? That everything is subject to change. Nothing is constant. And this is true of this is nature, isn't it? And this is true of our yoga business. So if we're going to be in the yoga industry, in the yoga business for the long haul, as part of that, we are going to change and adapt. Those change and adaptations may come internally from our interests, from our bodies, from our stages of life. Those may come from external circumstances like COVID. Let's talk about COVID and my yoga business. So prior to COVID, I was 100% in person. I owned a yoga studio and I was running classes and teacher training courses in person, all 100% in person. Now, because of COVID, I have really adapted and changed. I now have primarily an online business offering mentoring for yoga teachers, specialist training courses for yoga teachers, an online yin membership. I still teach my postnatal and toddler yoga classes in person because I love it. I love my interaction with my bumps, mums and little ones, and it really does work a lot better in person. Look, completely off topic, but just make a note. Toddler yoga is 100% not an online class. I've tried it. But COVID taught that I could adapt. Not only that in that adaptation, good things come. I am ironically grateful to the impact that COVID has had on my business. Look, if it weren't for COVID, I wouldn't be here doing this podcast, helping and supporting you. COVID shunted me into my mentorship role. COVID's given me the confidence to navigate technology and know that if I want to do something on the technology front, I can do it. So I'm kind of thinking, well, based on that fact that yes, head out the sand, I can't pretend it's not happening. We are heading into an economic recession. We are going to see really high food and fuel prices. But this is an opportunity for me to adapt. And the adaptations, I can do this. I'm human. Plus the adaptations I made in COVID have benefited my business. And I've been talking a lot in my teaching. And I think I did a social media post of what if? Great question. What if this is going to have a positive impact on your business? What if this is meant to happen or is needed to happen? And I kind of hold on to some vague hope that this is meant to happen because we're going to increasingly wake up to a notion, to an idea that there is sufficiency in the world, that there is enough food, energy and money for everyone. And we just need to share it and come out of fear. Fear tells us that isn't enough and we hold on to things and things get out of balance. So I really, really hope that this is part of a process of us waking up to working together and knowing and believing maybe abundance is a bit much, but believing in sufficiency, that there is enough food, energy, money for all of us. And in amongst all of this, we are going to continue to teach yoga. The other thing that came up in my Google research of recessions and the yoga business is actually in the last economic recession, the yoga industry continued to grow. So the idea that because of the economic crisis, your yoga business isn't going to continue to grow and thrive actually is disproven by the data. That said, we may have to change and adapt. One of my favorite sayings is the definition of madness is continuing to do the same thing and expecting the same result. So I saw it a little bit like post-COVID, when we came out of these lockdowns and people went back to just teaching their in-person classes and doing exactly what they did before COVID, and it wasn't working, and they just carried on week after week. And you saw them, I felt for them. I felt for this feeling of like, I had this busy class before COVID, and now it's not. And they were just doing the same thing week in and week out. And the definition of madness is continuing to do the same thing and expecting the same result. So it could be that there are things within your offerings right now that you may have to change, you may have to adapt. Only if it's not working, and don't fall into a trap that belief that people won't be able to afford your yoga offers in a time of recession, in a time of economic crisis. It is just a sad fact that doesn't affect everyone. Not everyone has less money, or not everyone has to prioritize eating and heating over going to yoga. In stressful times, people do know that they need to invest in their health. I'm going to remind you, in the last economic recession, the yoga industry continued to grow. The yoga industry net worth today is currently worth 88 billion. Ask yourself why you wouldn't believe that you are not worthy of part of that money, that you cannot make money as a yoga teacher, regardless of external circumstances. As a human being, you have the power to adapt. So let's have a think about, and this is kind of guesswork, guys. So I might re-record a podcast in a few months' time and say, oh, by the way, I suggested that. Well, actually, this didn't work, but this has. So this is part. I'm trying to share with you, a little bit of inside my brain of this is about being a CEO, a boss of your yoga business. You've got to play. I've got all these little sayings, but I surf a lot. I absolutely love surfing. And one of the sayings that we have in surfing is, if you don't go, you don't know. Because in surfing, you can be a bit indecisive because you're like, should I surf at this break? Should I surf at this time? Would it be big enough? Would it be too big? Will the tide be right? Would it be clean? And you can get yourself tied up into all of this indecision. This can really happen in your business, particularly when you're facing an unknown, like what would the impact of the economic recession be in my business? I don't know. Oh, should I try this? Should I try this? Should I try this? Or I don't know. Nothing feels right. Nothing's going to work. Cue overwhelm, cue stuckness, cue head in the sand, doing nothing. So what I'm going to play with, listen to those words, like your yoga practice, you come to your mat and you play with your movements. In your yoga business, if you've got something that isn't working or may benefit from an upgrade or may benefit from a slight adaptation based on external circumstances, for example, COVID lockdown, you took your classes online, then play with it. Because if you don't go, you don't know. And the worst that's going to happen is it's not quite right. You learn from your mistakes, immensely value, and you begin to refine your offers. So things I've been thinking of, and actually I felt quite reassured. Thanks to the adaptations I've made in my business in COVID, I feel really well placed to meet the next 12 months in the sense that I have quite a lot of free stuff. So that resonates for me. I've got a YouTube channel that's got some free classes. If you head over to amyyoga.com and click on the free stuff button on my homepage, you find all my free courses. There's free short training courses, there's free yoga classes. I've got some free stuff out there. So if people genuinely can't afford to come to my classes, they can still access yoga with me. which makes me feel good. Now, I don't mean for you to now head off after this episode and record a load of free stuff. People's personal economic situation, however hard it is to say this, it isn't your problem. There's a huge amount of free yoga out there on YouTube. You do not need to create a load of free stuff just because there's an economic crisis. But if you have some free stuff, know that you've got stuff out there that can help people regardless of whether they can afford it or not. Then I also have some lower ticket prices. So I've got a Yin Club membership, which is only £22 a month. And I also have an on-demand library that's only £12 a month. So I've got these really low price offers that people can do yoga with me online. And then I was thinking about my classes, my pregnancy, postnatal and toddler yoga classes. Look, people have been booking onto these classes. I'm starting in September in a few weeks' time, and I've got bookings coming in. And I know, based particularly on the experience of the last 3 years, where their communities and connections have been destroyed thanks to COVID, that they need my yoga classes now more than ever, that they are going to, in the large majority of mums that come to my classes, are going to continue to come to my classes because it's just so important for their physical and mental well-being and the mental well-being of their children. And again, I feel like relieved that I've got this specialism of pregnancy, postnatal, toddler yoga, so I can continue to serve this demographic that need yoga now more than ever. And if you're like, after that statement, like, oh, I think I might train in pregnancy, postnatal and toddler yoga, again, head over to amyyoga.com/training and you can do exactly that. I have taught mums and mums-to-be for over 12 years now, successfully. My business model around serving bumps mums and little one, I've got it nailed. And I have a pregnancy yoga teacher training course, a postnatal teacher training course, and a toddler yoga teacher training course. They're all online. You can do them individually or you can purchase them as a bundle. These courses aren't just about training, and here's one of the changes that I've been making in the last week. I've gone through my specialist training courses, which also includes as a Yin one, and as well as the content, the knowledge, the subject knowledge to teach, I've made sure all of those courses are business positive. I've made sure when someone signs up to one of my training courses, they're not just getting the knowledge to teach, that they can take that knowledge, teach people effectively and grow their yoga business. And this was one of the adaptations that I'd already started to make, that I wanted it to be, when you were investing in my training courses, that it was a real investment, that you were going to make a return on your investment. And this is what I want you to start thinking about in terms of how you might navigate and adapt the next 12 months. In your messaging, when people are coming to your yoga classes, when people are coming to your yoga retreats, when people are buying an online course or signing up to your training courses, they are making an investment. That investment might be in their health, for example, if they're coming to a class or a retreat. And make it clear that they're investing in their health, because when people are stressed in terms of economic recession, what did we see previously back in 2009? People prioritize investing in their health. Equally, I'm thinking about those that are going to come and train with me. They want to know that this money that they're investing in their training, that they're going to see a return in their investment. Because right now, we are all keeping an eye on the pennies, like the cost of living is affecting all of us. So we may consider more carefully how we spend our money. So that just means for you as a yoga teacher in your yoga business, you need to be crystal clear in your messaging. Who's this offer for? How is this offer going to help you? What is the problem that I'm solving? Your investment is going to achieve this outcome. And this calls out the people that need to make that investment and magnetize them towards you. Now, along with thinking about maybe an online membership or some lower cost offers, just caveat here, I do not want you to go out and suddenly reduce the cost of your price, the classes. Do you know what I did with my training courses? Because I've added value to them, because I have added extra training in the business side of things. I've also thrown in some Voxer hours so people can voice message me and get support from me. Because I've added value into those trainings, I've actually put the prices up because they're worth more. I'm adding more value. But I have also included payment plans that spread the cost through a wider period of time. And this actually, I know who inspired me on this one, Lisa Johnson, who is an online business strategist, who actually has been talking about the recession for a while. So do follow on Instagram. I really love a lot of her messaging. She had a visibility course, which she put out a few months ago or so. And she had the fixed price, and then her payment plan was just a fixed price divided by 6. There was no extra cost for the payment plan. And her messaging was along the lines of, look, I know money's, getting tight for all of us. I trust you to pay. The payment plan is just the fixed price divided by 6. I really like this. Now, when we think about payment plans for our courses, training, we often charge a bit more. And I can understand why, because sometimes there's a little bit more admin in that. If someone forgets their payment or their card changes, you run the risk of them signing up for a month and then cancelling. But I just really loved her messaging that I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to trust it's going to be okay. I've done exactly the same. So all of my training courses and course bundles, you can train in pregnancy, postnatal, toddler and youth, shameless plug there. All of them have a fixed price, but also a payment plan. And the payment plan is just the fixed price divided by the number of months. And this is one change that I've made because of what I can see facing me into the future, the economic recession. I don't know if it's going to work, but it feels like the right thing to do. It feels like the right thing to do. So along with my lower ticket offers, I am also thinking about higher ticket offers. And my Prosperous Yogini mentorship program is going really well. The people that joined me in July, I'm absolutely loving it. One thing I've realized is they are benefiting from some high touch support, from being able to drop me an email, to put a message on our Ask for Health forum, to send me a voicemail messaging, and I respond. I've been doing stuff like appraising people's websites, creating little feedback videos. I'm literally supporting these people. If they ask me something, I support them, and it's a real high touch experience. The other thing that I'm doing with those that are already in is we're all having a one-to-one 45-minute business call where I take their business, look at what they're currently doing and create a plan for them over the next 6 months. These are additions to what I initially set out to do. This is much higher value. So I am going to put the price of my Prosperous Yogini mentorship program up to a much higher ticket offer because it's going to be much better. So when we're thinking about higher ticket offers in your business, it might look like one-to-one packaging. It might look like a higher end retreat. Interestingly, in times of recession, higher ticket offers tend to continue to sell well because they're targeting people who are largely untouched by the recession. And if your image of someone who's largely untouched by recession is some rich old man, not necessarily that. Like my mum and dad are a great example. They own their house. They're in their mid-70s. My dad has solar panels on his roof. He didn't spend much on food anyway. The cost of living crisis, the economic recession is not impacting on them. So again, when you're thinking about your target market and you're heading into a spiral of people won't be able to afford my offers anymore, think about that person that is coming to your classes. I think that person that's going to continue to prioritize their health and continue to come to your classes. But when we're thinking about our offers, it's also getting to think about diversifying our offers. Now, if you're just starting out, this is not something I suggest you do. When you just start out, you just got to get that one thing you're going to do nailed, completely nailed. Focus on what you're good on, focus on what there's a need for, and offer that. That's my big advice for you when you're starting out. But if you've been doing this for a while, how could you possibly diversify your offers? Could you bring in, if you're owning a yoga studio, could you bring in a higher offer one-to-one package? Could you start offering high touch workshop days that are really intensive? I saw a post on Facebook, and this isn't a criticism of the yoga studio owner, but it did make my heart sink. Again, they put it out a few weeks ago. Things have changed since then, but they put this message out that they were not going to change their prices despite the fact of rising fuel and energy costs, that they wanted to continue to make their yoga accessible and affordable. Now, this was a lovely message, a heartfelt endeavour that on one part of me, really, really, really honourable. The business side of me was like, that is such a massive mistake. So if you find your costs have gone up, so your costs will go up if you've got a yoga studio, your costs will go up if you're driving around to yoga classes, your costs will go up if you're running a yoga retreat, because I'm sure the retreat centre is charging you more because their costs have gone up. Your costs are going up, okay? If you don't pass those costs on to the user, to those people that come to your classes, if you don't pass those costs on, you run the risk of your business stop being profitable. So let's take the example of the yoga studio. If your costs are going up on your yoga studio and you don't pass them on, then you potentially run the risk of having to close the doors on your yoga studio because your yoga studio business is no longer profitable. And nobody who wants uses that yoga studio wants that to happen. So again, it's about, how can I diversify? How can I diversify my pricing? Now, that doesn't mean set up some bizarre, complicated pricing structure. But one thing that I saw that was really lovely in COVID was the option to pass it on. So people who had an excess and abundance of money could buy a class pass for someone, or have a scholarship place for your training courses, have a concession rate for your classes, but continue to charge what you need to charge for the majority of people who can afford to come to your yoga classes, your yoga offers, so your yoga business continues to be profitable. Okay, there it is, your yoga business in a recession. I try and summarize it. Previous events, previous experiences, the recession of 2009, the COVID pandemic, have shown us that the yoga industry continues to grow economically despite these external events. The world continues to need yoga. As a yoga teacher, you continue to serve those that will be blessed to work with you. However, head out of the sand. Stop pretending it's not happening, okay? Remember that analogy of COVID lockdown. Imagine you had your head in the sand and you pretended that we weren't in lockdown and you continued to run in-person classes. It wouldn't have worked. And I think there is a little bit here of head up, have a look at what's going around, have a think about what it is you're currently doing. If there's anything that isn't working, definition of madness, continue to do the same thing, hoping for the same result. How could I potentially diversify my offers if I need to? Okay, if you need to. And thinking about that higher ticket, specialized offer, also those lower ticket offers that continue to allow people through the door. That doesn't mean you lower your prices. It is more than likely that right now what you should be doing is reviewing your costs and your pricing and considering how you put your prices up. If you're putting your prices up, if you want to make yourself feel a bit better about putting your prices up, is there any more value that you can add to your offer? So I'll cite the example of my specialist training courses. I've added more value. I've added in more training on the business aspect of running pregnancy, postnatal, toddler and yin yoga. And I've really honed my messaging. I've been working on my websites, my sales pages, and honed my messaging on the investment, the value that the training brings, the value of coming to my membership brings, and investing in your health. So my lovelies, I'm here for you. I'm here for you for the next 12 months, for however long this podcast lasts, but I will share my experiences of the recession, of course. I will be totally upfront with things that aren't working, of course. And when we're on the topic of investing, now more than ever, you need to join my mentorship program. Now more than ever, you need me on your team to help you grow your business. Remember, in the last economic recession, the yoga industry grew. The yoga industry is projected to grow. Hire me on your team, help me, let me help you, let me support you to grow your yoga business. Now, let's start now. Don't do it alone. Don't do it alone. And as I said in the podcast, the Prosperous Yogini mentorship program is going up in price. And it's going to go up quite a bit in price because of the added value that's coming. So you can join now in August 2022 for the current price of $597. And it is going up to $997 on the 1st of September as I'm adding in those Voxer hours, that one-to-one business coaching call. But those offers are there in August at the $597 price. So now is the time to join my mentorship program. Now is the time to invest in you. Just like you're persuading your yoga students to continue to invest in their health, you need to invest in your yoga business. I'm going to close with this, one of my favorite analogies. Like I was thinking the other day, imagine if you'd only ever practiced yoga by yourself. You'd only ever done 3 YouTube videos and rolled your mat out by yourself. Imagine where you'd be in your yoga practice. And I think, why do we assume we'd run our business like that? Why would we assume we'd run our business completely by ourselves without support? My Prosperous Yogini mentorship program is a high touch support mentorship program. And even at $997, it's an amazing price for the support you get. Together, my darling, we are stronger. I will be here next week with my podcast, continuing to help and support you through the next few months, through however long I'm here chatting. All right, my darlings, I will see you soon.